Hello, I'm Steve Monkey Mason and welcome back to It's Just a Podcast. Before you go, where's the fucking film? It's Just a Podcast and I'm joined by the one and only Lubo Carl himself on the other line.
Howdy.
This is the first one we've done since Blade. We were meant to do Blade 2 and as well as the birthday, but I think everyone's back at work now, so trying to get them in while we can. We've decided not to do Blade 2. And Carl has suggested to do Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So I'm about to press play on 3, 2, 1. Boop. Right. This VHS still lives in my room. It was at my nana's when I was a kid. I've got a Disney DVD logo going on here, mind. It was just,
logo, yeah.
it's one of these very first. Tinkerbell's just fucked off across the screen. I remember seeing this at my nana's, and it was just like, you know, back then, like we're talking late 80s VHS, you didn't have that many. And this is one of the ones I always wanted to watch, and it's something that I like inherited after she passed away. I remember going to the pictures to see the second, and then being very baffled by seeing a third one that sort of went straight to VHS. Proper old school Disney.
Yes.
Right, well I've got Walt Disney Pictures now. Carl's watching this on Disney Plus. Right, I've got Walt Disney in colourful letters. How about you?
Yeah. I'm like just a second or two ahead of you.
Rick Moranis in. That's what I've got on my screen right now.
I'm just like a few seconds after.
I like the intro and cue for this. It's quite a.
I love this because that's total Disney font. You know, definitely like you're watching a classic Disney animation. You're obviously not. I like that.
It reminds me of like 90s stuff as well. It just really captures it. I love it how they've like all the text goes in, and you know that you're going into a movie. So
Yeah. Well, that's it. I think it definitely is up there as my childhood film. Like I love this. I think Rick Moranis, you know what I mean? Like I say, at this stage, I mean, I dare say I have to look at his filmography, but I mean, did the bloke ever did a bad film? You know,
I think
he seemed to have really good quality, like taste in what he wanted to do.
yeah, I mean he is returning to acting for the very first time for the TV series as this, isn't he?
Yeah.
I love
Which is
Batman as a
surprising
snake.
because I would have lost money.
Just saying that, looking like a snake there, it's class. Like, do you think they're going to be lost for the whole series, like Land of the Giants? Hello. I might be talking to myself.
Yeah, I hope so.
No, he's there.
I'm here. No, I was, sorry, I was just thinking, I would have lost money, I would have thought he would come back to Ghostbusters. Not obviously the female remake, I wouldn't have expected him to come back for that at all, even though some of the original cast did. But I thought, once you get a film with, Sigourney Weaver, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, I thought that might have been something that tempted him. So I wouldn't have thought he would have gone for this series before the Ghostbusters one.
Oh, even for a paycheck, yeah, because he's been singing, hasn't he? Joe Johnson, so obviously this guy directed Jurassic Park 3 as well.
Yeah.
I just...
Well, it's ridiculous. We've got this, who wrote this? This is a horror guy, isn't it? I want to just double check my facts here because this is who was he called? Stuart Gordon.
Oh, as in Reanimator.
As in Reanimator, yeah, because it was interesting because I remember reading apparently the original script actually had 5 kids, and one of the kids actually died in the original script. They were going to kill one of the kids off, which obviously would have changed the tone dramatically to what we've got now. So that would have been an interesting way to go.
It's just so much nostalgia seeing this. Like, I'm sure that kid returned for the second one. The second one was a big hit because it blew the kid up, but
Yeah.
I don't think any of the child actors went on to be absolutely huge, though. I'd be absolutely shocked by that, but...
No, so you've got, So Marcy Strassman. So she is on
She.
the phone now, I believe.
That's not Marcy Strassman. I'm sure the man's Marcy Strassman.
No, that's right. What can I say? Two blonde girls. Let's see. There we go. That's Kirsty Sutherland. That's the one I'm looking for.
This is like a bloody start of Back to the Future and all that, and like the Goonies. That's fucking sort of like press the doorbell and sets off a chain reactions and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, they just totally could live in the same universe. You know, this is just like, you know, sort of like a couple of years later after Back to the Future, because obviously we do get a very 90s vibe here. Even though it was filmed, well, it was released in America in '89, so we didn't get it until '89. But you got the dog. There's always a dog.
New message phone. No, it's as I see, I think Rick Moranis is shit hot on this, but this is Disney because Disney were like sort of they had a bit of a few flops in the '80s, didn't they?
Yeah.
When it comes to animation, and it wasn't
until.
until
I think they were just trying to get the beaten because obviously I mean, I want to say they struck gold early on, really, but I think it was because they were going for new animation, and that kind of clouded the story a little bit, and they didn't get quite as good a characters because they were dealing in like, oh, we want it to be like really nice looking. Not that the original weren't, but I would imagine when you look at the original Disney stuff, going way back, you know, it was good storytelling. You know, it just happened to be animation at the same time.
he's definitely been in the X-Files. I'm sure he has, Matt Fewer.
Of course he has, yeah.
I'm sure he has. He went on to play Job in Lawnmower Man 2.
Right.
I bet he's been in the.
Too much Lawnmower Man.
See if he's been in the X-Files.
Let's see.
Shut me.
I've got the right guy.
Matt Fewer.
Matt Fewer. Don't know why my internet's been a bit funny at the moment.
Weird family. I mean, he's doing alright for himself. He's got a fucking little house made out in the back garden.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's Americana, this. Everything's nice and golden.
That kid is in some of it as well.
Matt Fewer. Yeah, so we've got Matt Fewer. He did Dawn of the Dead, the remake. He was in Pixels. He was in the Watchmen film. But if it's, I'll drop down to the 90s because that's when you're gonna find. Let's see. He was in Mighty Ducks TV series. So he voiced that. Apollo 11 TV movie. Nothing too massive, to be honest with you. Dumb and Dumber had a TV series.
Was it not the animated one?
Might be. Doesn't actually say animated, but I'd imagine it must be.
I'm just
Lawnmower Man 2, Job Smith. But no, I think you might not have broke into the X-Files. Star Trek, but no winner. Doctor Who.
So say the kid who plays the youngest brother, he's the mate in Big, isn't he?
He is, Gerard Rushton.
Fucking get in.
And his common films are Big, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He's in the very classic Kurt Russell Overboard. And, of course, A Cry in the Wild. His last job was in 2000, which was Cover Me, based on a true story, based on true life of an FBI family.
Boomf. There you go. There goes the fucking apple.
The apple is gone, and I mean, I'm buying it. That's the thing. That's what it comes down to. Do we believe that this machine is working? I think it does a good job of doing that, actually.
She looks like Sissy Space Sack, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's Kirsty Sutherland, so I think she's done a lot of stuff. That woman. At least she's like one of those faces that you'll spot every time. Oh, that's who I remember. I don't think you would have watched it. I don't think she had the mother in
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, yeah.
I remember. I've seen all that.
Buffy guy?
I've seen all the Buffy's, mate.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who just dies, doesn't she, on the chair?
Yeah, like it's a proper like cliffhanger season ender. Where she gets found with bite marks in it. I was like, yeah, man. TV were bold enough to do that for her. Apparently she voiced the local population person in Grand Theft Auto 5.
Again, though, you think about stuff like that, and like you're an actor, and especially if you've got like quite a distinct voice, and like you can just get work going into a day, reading out studios and getting a paycheck and leaving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think she also did good because, like I say, she had a face. Not to say she's pretty, just to say, like, you know, I look at her face and I automatically think of, you know, like say Buffy, or you know, and there's a lot of actors are good, but you know, quite forgettable unless they work really hard at it. Whereas she's always got that kind of recognisable face. I suppose it helps getting work.
Rick Moranis, man. Great casting for the kid, the younger kid, Nick.
Yeah, well, this is it though. Like again, it's like, although yes, Rick Moranis is definitely the star of the show, even though for the longest time he's not really in the film. Obviously, once the kid gets shrunk, but at the same time, I think it's such a good cast. You know, everyone turning up and doing what they're meant to do. You know, so it's
Right, the mum who's just appeared, she is the mum in Fast Getaway, but recently she is in the Tremors TV series and plays Mindy's mum, who, funny enough, obviously Mindy's mum was in the original, and she comes back for the third, so like she was obviously cast after that. Do you think, like, if you were going to do a third movie then straight in a TV series, you would literally cast that cast up properly, because all the cast are recast except for Burt Gummer?
yeah, true. And when did he come back though? Because he was in the first two, wasn't he?
Burt Gummer, Matthew Gloss has been in all of them. He's been in everyone.
Has he been in all of them? Right. Okay. I thought he might have dropped off in one and then came back.
Nice. He's been the predominant one, like. I've enjoyed the TV series for Tremors. It's all available free online on YouTube. It's worth a watch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for years I was waiting to get a hold of it, and just event, as I say, me and Casper were talking about it, then one day it was just like, oh shit, it's all on YouTube. So look at that skateboard, man. I mean, it's ahead of its time, because this is probably possible now, you know, to use your lawnmower with your mobile phone. It's got to be.
Ah, well, yeah. I thought you were going to go with shrinking people. I said, yeah, it could be possible. Nah, you're going to say, like, you got to have a more control aspect of it, yeah, I'd imagine. I've never seen it, but when you think about it and what we can do, it's definitely up there as a...
I mean, you're talking about shrinking people, and look how much effort they had to put in the Avengers.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the grass there in the background. That doesn't need cut.
Yeah, it's a nice tidy garden, isn't it? But you had to do it every day. This was a chore you had.
To be honest with you, like when you back then when this came out and you go in your garden, it made you appreciate your garden, like what adventures you could have in your garden. You know what I mean? Because I think that's what's really cool once they get down. I mean, the Scorpion's a bit mental, but again, it's kind of like just like what you find in your garden, like the Lego brick that comes up. It's fucking perfect.
Yeah. Oh, I dare say if I go back to some of my old houses and dug the garden up, I could find some pretty serious toiling.
See there, he's out hoovering the fucking garden. Now, I have been in 1991 to Disneyland in Orlando, and I got to see Auntie. I got to see some of the prop sets because there was like this weird walk. There's a bit where you can act like you're on the bee, and I think that was like, again with this having so much like nostalgia with my grandparents back in the day for being that, few only VHSs they had to watch back then without having to go to rent something. It was just amazing to see this stuff over in there, and I mean they've got some pictures scattered around somewhere of it, like, but just remember just like this film just having so much like, it's like such a feel-good Disney movie. But I think as well, I don't think like once Disney cracked their animation with stuff like Aladdin and Lion King and Little Mermaid, I think Disney's movies start to fall off, because you look at stuff like My Favourite Martian, and you look at Jeff Daniels and Christopher Lloyd, and it was a total misfire. And like Disney, but again they come back with like High School Musical and all that. They're always evolving, but like I just think in the early '90s, the mid '90s, I think the films sort of dropped off for the animation.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's quite, I mean, Disney were big back in, like, I mean, look at Blackbeard's Ghost and all that, and Herbie and stuff that had a lot of big films, but like in the 80s, I can't think of one. Like now it's popping out my head that screams Walt Disney 80s. That might be me dumb as fuck here, but
well, let's have a look.
I mean, we're talking Rescuers, and we're talking, well, not even Rescuers. We're talking like them doing Rescuers Down Under and Basil the Great Mouse Detective and stuff.
Well, like I say, I did go back and I did rewatch a lot of those actually, because I think Basil, he got past me somehow because he's a great detective, probably. The idea of actually watching that just completely missed me altogether, and I was pretty big in the world of Disney, like so. So if we basically do a quick rundown, in the 80s we had Herbie Goes Banana, The Flight of Noah's Ark, we got Popeye, but then I'm just going to miss a few, Fox and the Hound, Condor Man, rings a bell, but I don't think I saw that. Now there's a one I might need revisiting. The Devil and Max Devlin. That ring a bell?
No.
Well, it's Bill Cosby and Elliot Gould. Sorry. So two big names. One maybe he's less of a big name now. Tron. We've got Night Crossing.
Well, see, there we go. Tron. That was a big disaster for Disney though, because it wasn't. Although Tron's a cult film now, it was a flop though, wasn't it? I mean, a lot of people are shocked that they're actually going to do a new Tron, and like the thing is, like, well, Disney, it's like complete a legacy. Look at Narnia; they never bothered completing that, did they?
No, it is. But like, to me, that's the interesting thing with Tron is that, I mean, don't get me wrong, if anyone thinks of the remake Tron, they think of, the very early stages of the aging, and you think of an amazing soundtrack from Daft Punk. But the reality was, throwing in the technology, even if it didn't maybe hold up as good now, back then it was way better than the first Tron film, and yet it still didn't quite make the mark. It still didn't grasp an audience, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll go and look at that look. Even the remake, which is not as good as the original, in my opinion, but I think they're really good. But as a grand audience, for some bizarre reason, it just does not get anyone's attention.
Yeah. That's
why I'm quite curious of what they're going to do with the next one. Because obviously you've got a lot of technology now, and is it going to be too much technology? Are they going to substitute that with the story?
I'm going to say going back to this. This is like one of my first experiences of Americana families as well, because like back in the 80s and stuff like that, you just seen what America looked like. You know what I mean? Like Britain was Britain, America was America. There was no eBay or people like selling stuff. You know what I mean? You just couldn't get stuff unless you went, and like it's just totally like different way of attitude. Seeing stuff like Bigfoot and the Hendersons or the Burbs. You know what I mean? Because this could happen on this could actually happen on the Burbs street. These could be the neighbours up the road. It's got that like Americana kind of suburbia house, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, though, like I see this as a serious version of National Lampoon's. Even though it's still a comedy, but with that, it's such a hammed up parody of itself that it's its own genre. But with this, like when you just see the neighbours there when they're getting packed up in the car and everything, you just think this could totally be like National Lampoon, just more like I say, more gritty, but more adult like.
Yeah. Alright, well, good. I mean, Joe Johnson, he went on to direct, like, obviously, he worked on Jurassic Park and stuff, you know what I mean? He honed his craft and he definitely delivered with Jurassic Park 3, but he also did Jumanji, didn't he? So.
Yeah, well, that's true, yeah. So we got Flight of a Navigator as well. I wanted to throw in there before. Just that's I would say a classic that I'm not entirely sure it didn't make a lot of money, but it's certainly.
Flight of the Navigator is another film of that era, like Short Circuit. Like you've got like you would put like say for example you took 20 films of your childhood. I mean this would be in it, and like them films from that era. Like you're seeing and everyone had seen or you'd seen like I mean obviously I talk a lot about Frogs Dreaming being like that the more obscurity one, but
yeah,
like Flight of the Navigator, you know, Jessica Parker, Sarah Jessica Parker is probably the famous person because I mean Paul Rubin's in it, but at the time Paul Rubin wasn't Paul Rubin. Paul Rubin was like going under a different name, and then you had like the kid. I think he's been in prison.
Which kid?
The kid from Flight of the Navigator.
Right, yeah, sorry, yeah. I get that was quite recent, wasn't it? Where I say like within the last couple of years. I'm sure I remember that being advertised. But then again, it's a funny old time to be in the business when you're such a young kid.
I tell you what, a couple of days ago I cut my lawn because my neighbour cut the lawn, and now they're cutting their lawn again. I can hear it outside.
Was it a competition or something? Because he's done his, I'm going to have to go and do mine now.
You're right though, Rick Moranis doesn't really... He doesn't have a lot to do with it. And you've got...
I think that's the second one to really put him into it though, don't they?
Yeah.
I think, like, obviously that's where people talk about it, because I think it was a lot about him in his office or in the building where he obviously blows the kid up. And I think you could tell in the second one how big they get it, but I mean, I always forget about this part. You know, if you think of Honey I Shrunk the Kids, obviously it literally is just the kids.
Yeah.
I remember the adult getting near the end to try and figure out how to get them out of the cereal bowl or something like that. But in theory, this is a blur to me sometimes.
Well, the thing is with this movie as well, like you wouldn't have been able to make this movie if Land of the Giants hadn't been before that to pave the way of all the camera techniques and the false perception. I mean, look at that as a set. Now they would just all be in green screen. You know what I mean? That is like again great points of camera views and really low stuff. But like the sets in this is what makes this film brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, they're using a lot of tricks here, though. Yeah, I'm gonna say they're not taking it easy. I think they're trying to do everything they can that is pretty much like scale to what the time period represents.
I mean that's it. I mean look at the size of that nail, and it's just a nail, and then you know what I mean. The thing with the dog, it's just stuff that they would like do in King Kong. But when you look at it now, you can see where like the floor square is, and because a DVD would have been hidden on VHS, but you can see the floor being different. So like there, you can see like how it's been, what's a matte painting and what's not. So unfortunately, some of it hasn't aged well. But again, back in the day, on a big screen, people would be marvelled at it. But again, when it comes to VHS, you wouldn't have noticed it.
No, that's it exactly. How do you think? How do you rate the DVD? Because you're watching this on DVD, aren't you?
It looks all right. It's very clear. I mean, as I say, there you could tell where the matte paintings were. But I'm on about the line work. You can see where the overlay has been added.
Oh no, totally, yeah, yeah.
But the
No,
DVD,
it made me think because obviously I'm watching on Disney Plus, which is streaming. Because this is a big thing I was gonna sort of ask you very briefly about in terms of what's your thoughts on Disney going on record saying that they're not going to be releasing any more physical 4K media.
well, Disney can say that, but like the end of the day, it's more like people have got to remember people still collect. And if Disney keep on
Yeah, yeah,
buying catalogs, especially with Fox, like what Disney needs to be smart of is sort of like, right, we've got these films, that film or whatever, especially like how many different times can you release the Predator in a different steelbook, or the fact that now
well, that's it, yeah.
HMV is bringing out these um, Japanese steelbooks. People like to collect, people like to own, and at the end of the day your internet doesn't often work. You fucking, you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
sign in and you think, oh, why the fuck did I give my password out to so many different people? I can't even get signed in my own fucking thing. But it's kind of like physical media is a big thing again. People like to collect stuff. People like to have it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, listen, because the reality is, whatever for whatever reason, there is a reality, especially in the world that we live in, for many different reasons. But in most cases, there's always going to be kind of, what if something happens, and therefore they take Honey I Shrunk the Kids off. You
yeah,
know, therefore that person who is not going to have it. You know, you don't own anything. Even like iTunes and that still get you on that one because they'll turn around and tell you, you know, yes, you can buy an album, but you're actually they're letting you. They're basically just letting you permanently borrow it because they have every right to take that off you straight away
yeah,
if they see fit. And that's what I hate about that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm big on me Marvels and that. I haven't watched a lot of Disney Plus since, but I could go back to the older stuff. But the reality is, I have found myself in a position where I could go to my room, get the film I want to watch, take it out, put it in there, and watch it, or I can just go on Disney Plus. And I have done that a few times where I've just went straight to Disney Plus. But there's absolutely no way I'd ever give up on physical media. I love, like you say, I love the collection, I love the physical artwork, I love the idea of having something tangible. So I do think it is a bit of a lost hope. I just think it's very bizarre that they would come out and say that in such. It's still very early days. You know, like I say, 4K is still very. I don't think it's been as lucrative as Blu-ray.
the
But
problem.
then I also don't think Blu-ray has been as lucrative as Blu-ray. Would you agree with that?
Well,
DVD, sorry.
the thing is, with physical media, DVD is held on a lot longer than expected because Blu-ray came along and then all of a sudden you've now got 4K. The problem is,
Yeah.
it's down to like, see, for example, not pushing Blu-ray strong enough, and like people still haven't got a Blu-ray player. It's kind of like people don't rely on DVDs anymore. It's kind of like Blu-ray, like 4Ks came along and everyone wants 4K.
Yeah.
But DVD's still hanging on because it's cheap. Because people sometimes aren't
Yeah.
worried about quality. I mean, at the end of the day, when you go back to like streaming stuff, what do you not get? Special features, commentary tracks, you know, behind the scenes stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
art cards, like, you know what I mean? You get something for
Yeah.
owning the movie.
Well,
But like,
I couldn't mention that because I thought if they pushed Blu-ray as much as they could have, especially with the size of the disc of the information you can get on one Blu-ray disc, you know, it doesn't seem like they've tried nearly hard enough. Whereas from that kind of transport from VHS to where you might have gotten a documentary, you might have gotten something of a bonus feature on there after the film played, but it certainly wasn't a thing. So when DVD came around, it was like, right, let's bulk this up, let's give them everything that we have in our vaults that we haven't been able to give them. And therefore, Blu-ray should have been literally twice that much. It should have been literally taken to all the votes to try and get what they could get a hold of. But then obviously it gets a bit murky, doesn't it? I suppose.
One of the
rights and who owns what.
well, one of the biggest Klingons for DVD is TV. TV are not massive on bringing it out on Blu-ray. Do you know what I mean? So there's a big market on DVD for TV stuff. But it's also distribution rights. There's a lot of films come out on Blu-ray and missed DVD completely over the last 10, 15 years. Because it's all about who owns what and how stuff gets done. And a lot of people hang on for anniversaries. And then, you know, films like haven't been available for ages. Like The Wizard. We talked about The Wizard quite a lot. And then it just randomly appears on Netflix. And does it get its release it deserves? Because The Wizard, again, going off like what's just been shown on the film as high score about what that was Sega, Nintendo. It's all about physical media, but some people don't want media. Some people go, right, like flick, and, you know, Sky's notorious for putting absolute utter shit out during the week of films that never see the light of day on physical media. You know what I mean? Sky picked them up, they slap a nice little cover on, people watch them, and then it's like, boof. But Netflix is really bad. See, Netflix has changed its formula. It used to be landscape stills. It's now gone to like portrait mode. And you go along and you'll see a film in like the main actor isn't even on the fucking still, and it's like they just change it to try and trick you to watch it. Like, oh, Sylvester Stallone's got a new film out called I See You. It's like, well, that's called Detox, isn't it? Or, like, you know what I mean?
There you go, yeah, perfect example, yeah.
Or they'll put, like, some actor becomes famous and they'll be on the artwork and you think, hang on a minute, he's hardly in the fucking movie. But again, it's all about, like, you should watch this, and not enough films get discovered from browsing. But
absolutely, yeah. Well, you've been a big, you've got me to buy a couple of films that I would never have probably watched. That I really enjoyed, so yeah, I think
that's
we
it.
could be a little bit braver.
Mate, honestly, it means Discovery. I mean, like, the other night, I mean, I'm on doing The Good, the Bad, and the What the Fucks at the moment for John Cusack, and I am struggling to track down some more John Cusack films because his films aren't getting released. There's one I was going to watch on Sky, and it's just disappearing. I was like, oh, great, and it's never been physically released. I was like, well, it exists, but I can't watch it. And I've got Amazon Prime on my computer, which I never use, and I seen a John Cusack movie the other night called Adult World, and it's been released on DVD, but it's gone, it's deleted, and I absolutely adored it. But again, it was me just like kind of, you know, seeing what's available. But even when I typed in John Cusack on Amazon Prime, there was only like 8 films available. So
yeah, I'm watching this now because this is a great example of like matte paint and stuff like that. I love this sort of stuff. Although I've never really been able to unsee grass the way I see it here. You know, obviously when you see grass, you just think of, you know.
I'd love to know what you're talking about because I'm in the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen. Where are you?
Mum just pulled up in the car.
Oh, I'm ahead of you. Ha ha ha. Now they're cut back to a high view. I used to remember a TV show as a kid, and I can't remember what it was called. I mean, I love this bit, the fucking T-Rex in the fucking garden. It's fucking classic. It's a fucking brilliant bit, that. But then look at that! It just went for a clockwise fucking transition, and I think, wow, that totally looks out of place.
Yeah.
You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
So no, I've skipped ahead. No, because I remember the film. I love this film. I've skipped ahead. They're now looking at what looks like a river.
Yeah,
which is obviously going to be a little stream. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
Dead
like it's kind of like, oh, the fucking dead fly. There was this. I'm sure there was just loads of weird stop animation. It was around the era of Trapdoor, but like it was all these snails and that used to hang around at the bottom of the garden, sorting stuff out. It was all that era, like.
Yeah. You mentioned going to Universal Studios. Is that the? Have you been a couple of times? Because the only time I refer to you is I literally obviously just watched one of your videos this morning. Doing the room tour, and you mentioned a photograph of you and your granddad with the Godzilla toy. That'll one you're referring to.
Yeah, that'll be that. That was Florida. So I've been to Florida and I've been to LA. So the Florida one.
Okay.
I got to go to Disneyland, and I distinctly remember this. I remember like meeting. I mean, even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were there riding around the van, I don't remember much
Yeah.
rides because I wasn't really into Disney. I was more into Universal Studios and going to that,
Yeah.
and I actually got to go on the massive King Kong ride and like totally like scared shitless Back to the Futures. I got to see Jaws, you know what I mean, and I just got to take in that
Yeah.
Americana. And just even the food, the life, like walking in and like everything's
Yeah.
fucking totally different. Now, when I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
back in
Totally.
LA, like recently, like back in LA and stuff, like nothing's totally different. You know what I mean? Like you might get a few brands here or there, but like the word Americana is kind of gone because it's just world. It's just like
Right. Yeah.
like we were talking about the other day about I'm going to order some LMP when I get paid on Amazon. It's going to cost us 20 quid to get a 6 pack of LMP
Jesus.
because after 25 years in New Zealand, it still hasn't made its way around the world. Do you know what I mean? But like
Nah.
in America, everything. I mean, again, I love watching like how DVDs and how they're different and artwork and do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just weird. Portions.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the LMP though, 'cause like whenever I go into like a shop, there's a garage at Kip Hill. They've obviously got like a chocolate section or purely like all American import. It's Hershey's and Three Musketeers and stuff like that. And there's a couple of shops that do like American drinks. And I'm always looking out for it, just thinking, I wonder if LMP's because you just never seem to see it like. But
I'm gonna have to bite the
definitely.
bullet
Well,
and order some like.
but when I went to Florida, like, I know exactly what you mean, mate. It's just a different world. It's like you say, the food and the lifestyle and everything. It's just a breath of fresh air in some ways. Where I'd imagine, obviously, that's just because we're used to such a different way of thinking.
And it's the age as well. I mean,
I would love to go back as an adult though, just to kind of do more, like just more adult stuff. I think like we did a lot when we were kids. Obviously, we would every single ride, did the Jaws thing. Obviously, I believe it was Aerosmith at the time that did the ride rather than I think it was like Back to the Future back in the day and stuff like that. So like we did as much as you could possibly do. But I would love to go back, just for a couple of weeks, just to really like kind of nerd out on an adult level, like a
well,
studio and stuff like that.
I mean, we've talked a few times about going because obviously now the other attraction about going to Orlando is NXT and all that's get done down there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But it's funny, I remember going in one of the gift shops. I can't remember where it was now. I just remember going in and I had for years I had this long sleeve T-shirt that I get from the WWF online shop, which was at the time the only time you could get that sort of stuff you had to get from America, and it was an RVD top. And I remember the bloke who was on the counter going, "Oh man, you should have been in yesterday. Oh man, it was really the tension was driving." I was like, "Oh, what was it like?" And basically, I can't remember who he was with, but apparently Triple H and somebody else was like proper doing like a little mini promo skit, and they were doing like a proper face off, and it's stuff like that that you just don't obviously you get that load now, I'd imagine,
Right.
with like the NXT world now, but it was definitely a different world when I went over there, like.
Well, it's like when Sluggy was over there and he had a picture with Jimmy Hart, and I was like, "Is that a statue? Is that the real person?" He's like, "That's a real person." I was like, "Fuck off." It looked like a statue.
Yeah.
Now that fly scene there, I mean, that could have totally changed the whole film if that fucking wasp had fucked off to another garden, like. But
Yeah.
I think it's even great how you know what I mean. Again, it's just poor man's process. They've made a massive bee. They've chucked the lads on it, done the whole Bucky Roo thing, and that's again. It's just fucking really well done, like.
Oh, I mean, like I say, at the time this was done, I think this is a brilliant scene. Obviously, he's flying around Rick Moranis now, and they're flying around the neighbour. And but then as an adult, I just also like chuckle a little bit as well because like I just step outside of the film world and then just think someone's running around with McManus with a camera and he'd pretend it's something else. Think if someone was on standby watching that, I'd be like, what on earth are they filming?
Well,
and this was not even a real place. This was an entire set. Did you know that?
well, again, that's
So
it. That's another thing
all,
that.
all these houses are fake.
Well, that's another thing that screams like that era, like the Burbs, like the dinosaurs, like anything you see in that was like, like filmed. They used to build sets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, apparently, I did a little bit of research. Happening there. It's all in New Mexico, so it's. I imagine that would have brought the cost right down. But smart way to do it. Like I say, you wouldn't think anything of it. You would think you were still in America.
Well, to be honest with you, what they would have done is probably like they were probably developing some land, like you see in all these movies where they're out there in the desert and they're like create towns. That's what they do, and they probably just went
Yeah, yeah,
bang, like we'll set up here. No one's moved in the estate yet. We'll take over. We'll get it cheap. We'll get some money put into it,
yeah.
and bang, it's done. Hope he finds his chair.
Well, this is it though, because I like this now. I love this idea that he's piecing it all together. You know what I mean? It's not just like some random, had a thought. He literally has thought, hold on, we don't have a baseball bat. And he's linked it to the broken window.
I mean, to be honest with you,
clever ways. I think if they were doing modern now, this would have skipped over this totally. It would have just been a case of him finding the couch and that was it sort of thing.
I was just gonna say there, like, I mean, if they invented shrinking, it would solve a lot of the world's problems. Like, do you want to go to a holiday in the garden? Yep, okay, that'll do.
Yeah, but mate, it would go wrong, man. It would just always go wrong. It would just be like, all I've got to say these days is 2020, man. It's just like, I wouldn't trust it.
I mean, credits to Rick Moranis there, because, I mean, there's no wires or anything there. He's just like, right, do you think you can get along that fence?
Yeah. Well, this is, funny enough, this was a game to us. At my nana's, every Sunday it would always be my brother and about 4 or 5 of my cousins, and we had a hedge, and it was like, I mean, we didn't give a monkey whether this hedge looks healthy or not, but we literally, if you were like really careful, you could just about crawl across it, like along it, because it was just as long as that fence is. Yeah. But if you went too fast and you put your hand in the wrong place, you just fall right through it, and obviously you're knacked because all these bloody like thorns and twigs and that stabbing you. So we just had to like see who could get across, and then obviously it was just like that just the game's lava. You know what I mean? So that's what you used to do as a kid.
I once remember seeing someone try to start doing that at the Guild Bridge, and I couldn't watch them.
Oh Jesus!
That was before we had the big barrier built on.
Yeah. What to say? I love how cartoony that is, well, like the whole pollen being like that yellow and just like polystyrene stuck all over them.
There you go. It's like a weird choice for some transition wipes and stuff like.
Yeah. And this is Johnson's directorial debut,
Oh, he's done a great job. I mean, he'd been around for years studying, though, hadn't he? It's not like.
Oh yeah, he wasn't an amateur, but as a debut, I think this is about as good as you could hope it to be, really, wouldn't it?
Because he did this, but then he went off to work on Jurassic Park, so, like, he kind of, like, you know what I mean? He was... that's where the best, like, you learn more from doing the under-owned jobs, do you know what I mean? So...
Oh, I'd imagine, like I say, that's like, you couldn't probably do that today in this modern world, but that was probably a lot of people's training, really. You work on other people's sets and you'd be like, you start from the very bottom, but like, if you were good and you were smart enough, you would literally have yourself kind of make notes and just completely sort of become a part of that set and see how it works. And then when it does come to your time, you end up doing really well.
This bit's fucking class.
Now people go straight to top.
Have you seen Sausage Party?
Aye.
When the fucking flour bag comes down and that, it's like, run! I mean, that probably isn't Rick Moranis.
Where one of the random kids died, apparently it was a scene, apparently. So I wonder if he was supposed to drown or something.
I mean, Stuart Gordon, he just died this year, didn't he, Stuart Gordon?
Yeah,
He's made some fucking gnarly shit, mind. But he also made
yeah,
Fortress, so
yeah. That's just like classic Gunge, that, isn't
there's definitely some like silicone shit in there.
it?
That's a
Look at Lord
fucking.
Moranis on that, wasn't like.
I tell you what, that's a fucking strong washing line, mind. Imagine that coming around to see if everything's alright. Get off the grass! I love the sound effect of the fucking go spoof. It's proper like the grassy knoll. Like the grassy knoll. That's the fucking JFK thing, but like it's more like
I can see that is a dark turn, that.
there you go. I mean that's totally like right. Still remembering the movie, but even there when she's suckling down in there, another film like that was a Never Ending Story. Um,
Yeah. Oh. See, this is obviously, again, I think we've had a few films where we've said the same thing, but it's like stuff like this would have been like the Goonies in that way. It would have been so much fun, but they would have spent so much time soaking wet and miserable.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, going back to them kid actors, I couldn't tell you another film they're in, except for I know the kid, the young. Well, saying that we talked about the kid who's been in big, but he hasn't done much. But like,
Nah,
I think the, I
like
think
the
the,
older brother.
I think the two
Never seen
kids
it, but
they're actually in the sequel, aren't they? So
yeah, I was gonna say Moranis' kid definitely back in it, but Amy O'Neill does strike me as someone who I've heard before, though. Nah. Rather than going down the whole list, the blonde sister who's being pulled out now, she came back for the sequel, but then apparently she's literally tagged the blonde girl in the Twilight Zone.
yeah.
So that would have been before this, and then Gabriel's Fire with James Earl Jones.
There's another film I remember, and I seen a trailer on. What the hell did I watch recently? It was on the VHSs I watched, and it was dinosaurs. When the kids get zapped off to like fight alongside dinosaurs, and they all got fucking
Yeah,
American Corner football jerseys and that on.
yeah. Well, the Moranis' son, I didn't recognise him, but it makes more sense now. He was actually the son in Edward Scissorhands as well.
Oh shit! Aye.
Mm. But he must still be. I'll go and say he might not be doing as well because I'm looking at his last credit, which was in 1994, and it was uncredited that, but it was called Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. So I wonder if that's something like, you know.
I think that's the ride.
Something like that.
I think it's the ride.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? But
Great
yeah,
Outdoors.
He didn't do a whole lot. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and then it's Let's Get Mom, which is a TV movie. He did a TV series called Monsters, Edward Scissorhands, and then pretty much nothing, really.
Great Outdoors is another film I've seen around this time like this, where again it's like this bit
yeah.
here, particularly when like they're gonna go away traveling and
See, that's interesting, that though, because that proper nerdy handshake that they've just done there is like so nerdy that it's like almost insulting that he would call Rich Moranis' character like a nerd. You know what I mean? Like, he's he's acting like he's the cooler one out of the two of them. Yet that handshake couldn't have been any geekier.
I used to live next door to a guy who was like that. He had this shed with loads of fish in. And he just used to appear over the shed every time he used to go out the back door for like a cigarette. He'd be like, "Alright, you know, how you doing?" But you would never see him anywhere else. Like, never go into his house or anywhere. Just a guy over the fence.
It's like Home Improvement. Did you only see half his face?
But I never see him in his body. I think he's quite a funny actor. I'm sure he's in the stand as well.
Right, yeah. Also, he didn't strike as much. I think his 80s was actually quite strong. I take you talking about Matthew.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his 80s stuff was quite strong, but I mean, he's still working. He did a series last year called The Magicians. Fear the Walking Dead. He did The Order. Castlevania. Altered Carbon, which is really quite a good series. So yeah, he's still very relevant. He's doing better than most, I think.
I mean, the kid who was in Big and this could have done the Kongs for a bit, couldn't he? You know what I mean? He could make like
I mean, I reckon he still could, really. I reckon that would. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to discredit them or say that they are any less or more. But you know, when I went to a convention and 6 out of the 12 guests were all pretty much uncredited Ewoks. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't even have a name. Which again, I'm not taking a diss at them, but I would say that if you haven't got a name, whereas this guy, he could totally rock up a con today and probably make a canny nice living. Being the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, definitely. All he's got to do is take a baseball with a burnt hole in it, so that'll be part of your picture when you have a good photograph. Yeah, easy done.
How fair.
But then again, when the series kicks off again, maybe you'll get a surge. Maybe there'll be.
Well, one of the things about Here Comes a Lego Brick, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, it's that or one of his cookies. Oh, it's the cookie.
I would say that's not where Auntie comes in.
Aye.
Or is it too early for that?
No, I don't think Auntie's far away. Auntie's on top of it, isn't he?
Moranis just kind of comes over. I was quite weary of that.
Are you ahead of me now?
Moranis has just been like a giant floating over the grass looking at them as they walk off.
Auntie's on. They've just seen Auntie and they're running away from him.
Hold on a minute. They are looking at something in amazement. Yeah, they've just found the cookie.
Oh, well, I'm way ahead of you.
Way ahead of us,
They're hiding from Auntie.
This is why we need to get around physical media. I need to go and buy this. Is this on Blu-ray? Do you have this on Blu-ray?
No, this hasn't been on Blu-ray, and I expect for the last couple of years. The only way you've been able to get it before it was probably discontinued was as a triple pack.
Yeah. Although it's got to be, what is it, so 89, see, 30th anniversary was last year, wasn't it? So.
I was just going to say before as well, when I was Tremors watching the TV show, Melvin, who was the kid in the original Tremors, who I can never work out who his dad was. Melvin's basically, he comes back as a cameo in the third one at the very end, but he appears throughout the series as a grown actor trying to take over the town. And it's the same actor that.
Yeah.
I think this thing with the ant, it's fucking horrible when he gets killed like the ant. For you.
Yeah. But he looks minging though. That always reminded me that. I don't know if it's because he's furry or what, but he was never like a poor ant. I had any affection for him, but no one would die. Like, but I never really liked the look of him. It just made us crawl a little bit.
I remember seeing like a life-size one of these, that you can get your picture taken with it.
I've got to say, do you have that picture?
Oh, I'd have to dig it out.
Yeah.
I would have been when I found that one of me and my granddad from that movie tour you were just talking about.
Yeah. Whoop. That squeaky chair.
That's me squeaky chair.
Well, don't say it like as if I just brought it up. It's like it's literally quite loud.
I've tried WD-40. It's been WD-40. I love the dog, how he just fucking grabs a hold of the string and all that and it gets sped up.
Yeah. Man, it's his face, man. Honestly, one of the tops.
I think the score really works with it as well, how it juices up a bit.
Yeah. Well, listen, it because it's been quite well paced at the moment, and I didn't realise. I mean, I wouldn't say short, but I didn't realise it's only an hour and a half.
Yeah, fucking how sped it up it is, him going around like a fucking crazy helicopter.
See, this is Disney for you, innit? For like the whole live action thing. All Disney live actions, if they were kind of trying to go for comedy, that speed up element has always been popular.
Yeah, it screams a bit of the Burbs as well. Just him like not really overreacting to his neighbour going flying over the fence into his pool.
Yeah. Hey, that's got to go on the list at some point, surely, of a podcast we have to do. The Burbs.
Well, I've done the Burbs, and to be honest with you, I was almost going to ask to see if you want to do that today, because I think when I've done the podcast, the movie's kind of done for a while, unless there's a new edition brought out, like they're bringing another copy of the fucking thing out. I went to bed last week a bit pissed and woke up to the Burbs, but just the audio music score. So I'd fell asleep like that. Then I listened to the comedy track the other night when it was in, because it's the writer.
Well, funny enough, you know, obviously, if you go back to the days when me and you first started chatting in HMB, that was one of the first things we talked about. It was that Arrow Steel book, and I put it off. I finally picked it up, and a friend of mine who was just absolutely die-hard Burbs fan, just thought, he was just so in love with it. So it was his birthday, and I said, I'll tell you what, there you go. You can have it for your birthday. In my head, thinking, I'll just go and pick up another copy, no worries. And we can find that bloody steelbook for, at least for a reasonable price to save your life.
It's a nice steelbook. It's a shame that Arrow didn't do the whole big box of it as well, because they got a lot of footage.
That's what I was hoping for, to be honest with you. When I realised obviously I'd missed out on that, I thought, you know what, I could look out here because it could be that they'll bring the box out, but I think it's past it now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think for the fact that they've already done it and then it's been so long, they're just not going to revisit it anytime soon.
Well, that's it. I mean, they've even changed the cover, because the Burbs is one of the few where Arrow have brought it out. Big Trouble in Little China being the other one where they've went for new artwork, but because of poor sales, they've flipped the alternative cover around and changed it, because normally with Arrow, the retail cover is the one with the age ratings on, and the Burbs has changed.
Yeah.
Right. So we had like the really dark, like yellowy, greeny one, which is not iconic as Tom Hanks just standing there with his fucking frying pan and his fucking hose pipe.
Yeah.
So they changed up. A Big Trouble in Little China's was like a montage of one of the funders' hats and like an abomination explosion, and and then they changed that back to the classic artwork. So it works. Surprised they haven't made a pop vinyl of him. They probably will with a new one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. I mean, like I say, they went big on Little Shop of Horrors, and that was like kind of out of the blue. So I'd imagine, like, with the sort of traction that this will get, they'll probably get quite a few. But then, do you do a really big Funko?
I love it how
Or
she
do you
just.
do even really smaller ones?
I just laugh my head off them fainting in the background. Not long for the Scorpion comes, is it?
Nah, because the back were anti now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, just checking where we are.
Massive fucking
Right,
cool.
See, that just looks minging. Mind you, it's not like a grudge or nothing like that, but I would say, like, you know, when most people say, oh, I don't like spiders, or I don't like moths and stuff like that, for me it's ants. Not against them, I just know that you don't get one. So if I see an ant knocking about, I know there's going to be like 100 of them somewhere.
Yeah.
So this would apparently meant to be called Teeny Weenies.
Honey, I Shrunk the
Which one
Kids
is
is
it?
such a, like, everyone knows what you say when, like, you say that. But it was like Honey, I Blew Up the Kids and then Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was the big thing with Honey, I Blew Up the Kid trailer, wasn't it? Like, they really, like, kind of emphasised on the whole, like, literally said it, Honey, I blew up the kid, you know. But you know what I quite like about this, and it's just such a little detail, but I just love it because it works so well, is that she's just as, like, on board with him. He's not just, like, the crazy, nerdy husband. Like, the wife is now also, she's in the garden as well. You know, like, there's no kind of sensible parent here that are both kind of on the same level.
Well, just the bit there that, like, before when the cops turn up and she faints at the back door is so funny.
Yeah.
Finally crept out for a cigarette.
Now, here's a fact I've just reread, right, and I think this is quite interesting. So, Russ there, right, the neighbour, how old would you say he is there?
Oh, he looks like he's my age, like 35, 37-ish. Like, you know what I mean? He'd gone into his 40s, but he must be... How old is he there, do you think?
Well, I can tell you exactly how old he is. He's 30 years old.
30 years
I think
old?
he looks canny old for 30. He's 30 years old.
He looks, especially considering that other kids, the two kids are meant to be his.
Well, it's apparently little Russ, so the younger son, is 14 years younger than him at this point. Well, at all points really. But yeah, that's just mental, that. So that must mean the older brother must be even closer to we did. But I think the dad looks a lot older than 30, man. I would have put him at like 40, 45.
They'll be coughing their lungs out that close enough to that cigarette.
I can say, imagine the backy rush she got enough of that.
Oh, it's still there.
A little bit of a call back to your video this morning when you were talking about getting Matty cigarettes. Just made it laugh because that was me a couple of years ago when my granddad was like, go and get some cigarettes, and I just never bought them for years, and then realising how much they are these days, I was like, how much? Don't even know how people can afford to smoke these days.
Well, honestly, the funny story was, like, we're going on a concert today, and I was just like, oh, do I go to the cash point, or I'll just stick my head in Steel Town and rob Matt's till and just leave him an IOU? And there was somebody in there talking to him. I was like, yeah, I'll have to get in the cash point. 13 quid, man.
Aye.
He still delivers, like. He delivers. Matt, he's good in this.
Oh, I definitely. I think everyone's doing well.
Imagine that if you had invented shrinking technology. You'd be fucking billionaire overnight.
Well, listen, did I not empathise on the second one? Are you doing much better?
It's I'm sure it's a lot of it's set in like a facility or something like that, and that's when it all happens.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got a much better position in the second one. I think like now he's just trying to pitch his ideas, whereas I feel like I'm sure the second one he's got his own laugh on that.
Dun 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 dun. You're right, like he looks a lot older than 30.
Yep. Hard people around.
There's another thing about America, fucking. Sorry about my chair. What do you call them? Fucking linear windows, sheet. They've all got the doors, but then they've got like another door.
Oh, right, like, so it's basically like
A screen door.
Bug repellent sheet, screen doors, yeah. Fine.
Fucking hell, I could have sworn to you before this started that they get in a red fucking Lego brick. You could fucking Bernstein the fuck out of that. What is the colour of the brick in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Red? It's not, it's blue? That just totally blew my mind.
Maybe you're colourblind, who knows?
Huh.
The sexual tension between the teenagers.
To be that young.
Yeah. Stop motion action now.
The cigarette would have gone out way longer than that, like.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's like Little Rush did start blowing on it when he first got it, so we'll just have to imagine that that's what's been happening off screen. When was Indian in the Cupboard? That was 90s, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that was
Because that must have been using obviously the same sort of technology here.
But like Indian in the Cupboard's another film that kind of like sort of like it was big when it came out, but then like stuff like Dennis, Richie Rich, Page Master, these are all films that people remember, but they've never seen the light of DVD.
Yeah.
And where like American Rabbit and stuff like that, these VHSs, the GoBots. There's so much stuff from this era that sort of Brave Star just never like found DVD, so it's not going to find Blu-ray unless it's preserved in a collection. But then again, it's just that's where stuff in streaming will win, because it just takes someone to go, right, Brave Star, there you go, there's a series and a movie. They may be interested in making a movie because nostalgia, and then it just all appears on Netflix.
Well, this is it. I mean, obviously, people are resisting to sell now because they're thinking about like kind of how to make the money themselves. Because I know Ryan Reynolds. I didn't read the full article, so I can't go into too much detail. But Ryan Reynolds apparently was in talks about releasing his own streaming service, which I don't know how you do that. You know, I don't know if he's just sort of going to come up with a brand name and then try and get everyone to come to him when it came down to it. Because obviously now that's the big problem now, isn't it? Well, it's going to be Disney Plus, HBO Max, when it gets to us, that is. and then you've also got like Netflix and Amazon.
Well, Shutter and all
Uh,
that kind of stuff, or Amazon Prime, WWE Network. You know what I mean? Again,
yeah,
you go. Like, the problem is not everyone's going to subscribe to all these channels because all of a sudden, like, you're paying out £50 a month for all these streaming services you might not use, and it's just like right. So again, it's like they're oversaturating the market. Would you not rather go out and buy what you want to watch?
well, it's a because I think what they're worried about is that like someone was talking about, not that I don't think it will ever will, but they were talking about like falling into that cable kind of world again with America. You know, where it's like get everything under one household, and then basically have everyone just getting a share of the piece, which it can't happen really because Netflix isn't going to want to share. Neither any of the big ones are. But the reality is, it's going to get to a point where the only way you could either argue and say, well, nobody's subscribing to mine because it's Disney Plus, so maybe there will be deals down the line where, I don't know, you won't get them all, but maybe Netflix will broker a deal with Disney Plus and say, let's combine our resources together, and then such as, kind of develop it from there, because I don't think you can last long with this many, because like, I know a lot of people, I don't have Amazon, I have Netflix, and I have Disney Plus, that's all I've got. So it's kind of like, it's getting to a point now where it's like, you just can't afford to have everything.
A fucking Scorpion's massive. Fucking bright.
Wouldn't you be better off climbing further inside the Lego rather than jumping out and then running away? I mean,
fucking
okay,
that's
maybe not.
bad. I mean, I can't remember seeing a red scorpion like.
Maybe there was a red scorpion. Did you not think it was a blue scorpion and a red brick?
No, I thought it was like more of a dark anti-sacrifices and stuff.
Like.
The only red scorpion I know of is dun 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 the Lost Hundred. It is a bit sad for a kids' film though, for something to die the way this does.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But then I'm gonna be the first to do it. But is that ant and that scorpion like out of proportion?
I would.
I mean, scorpions are kind of big, so that ant would have to be way smaller to be justifiably going against a scorpion.
But that is a brutal killing of it, because the scream, it's had it pinned down, like they've come to save him, but it's far too late, and it's like, again, it's like kids go to see it, and is it less than life and death to like a younger audience? But it's fucking. Yeah. But it's also like, don't touch a scorpion, but then does it encourage kids to go, it's an ant, like bring that in the house?
Yeah. And you actually see the massive hole in the ant as well, so like where he's being stung. It's not like it's just, nothing. It's actually a massive hole in its back. But I wonder if that was the conversation they had. I wonder if they said, right, we can't kill a kid. All right, can we kill an ant? Yeah,
that's a compromise. Yeah, that is totally the compromise. It's because again, it's not a human. It's still got a U rating. But that I think that there, just watching that even as a podcast, how violent that was. You know what I mean? Because again, Disney makes money on making stuff like Bambi and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Bugs. There was enough research there for ants and Bugs Life to pop up years later. Do you know what I mean? But I think that's fucking brutal. But I think
that's what Disney have also had a good handle on in terms of that. They've never been afraid of discussion that people or animals or things do die. Like I say, when you consider it, I mean, all you got to do is chuck a stone in the Disney vault, and you'll find you've got this, you've got Bambi. There's all sorts of films that Disney have done where, like, the dying aspect has been a big part of the storytelling. It's like, it's not the end of the world, it's a sad thing, but we move on and we persevere, and I think Disney have always done that quite well.
I love it how he's like, they've had time to set up loads of booby traps. Even though that's a set, some of the way that's just framed there looks like it's blue screen.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty elaborate, that, like. I should mention before, which I think was quite interesting, that they went that way, and it was a total like accuracy nod. So well done, Disney, to a certain extent. But just before the Scorpion came, before when they were necking on, that was a proper like I'm sticking my tongue down your throat kind of kiss. It wasn't like a kind of let's just push our lips together like what I'd imagine like a lot of teenagers do. But like I remember watching that just before the Scorpion, I was like, aye, they're half going for it, aren't they?
Oh, here it comes. The lawnmower kid. Look at the controller. Oh, was he just being for a poo? Is that what that whole acting is there?
Yep, coming out from the corner with your pants and doing that. Universal.
I mean, you can't think of more violent death than that going up the lawnmower and getting sliced to a million bits, can you? I'm telling you though, there'll be lawnmowers now, you can just do that with a fucking mobile phone, like. You know, there'll be an app, stand in the garden, walk, turn, do the whole conference of your thing, save it in an app, press mow your lawn and done.
I know, but you're not going to get the same sort of quality, are you?
Yeah, probably get better quality.
Where it'll be straight, with like corners. You'd have to be pretty much put your hand up at it.
I mean, maybe the scorpion is a bit over the top, but like maybe it could have been a snake. But then you think, oh, I mean, that would be quite scary if there was a garden snake chasing them.
Yeah, it'd be hard though to control, to introduce a snake on that like level. I mean, I don't know if it'd be much harder than a scorpion, but I think with a scorpion it's like a smaller matter, isn't it? Whereas if it was a snake, and obviously being that small, the snake would have to be like bloody, well, I don't know how long, but long.
Try to open the door and get shoved back into the door.
Well, I can confirm, Mr. Mason, for £1,470.69, you can get the Gardener, which is the Gardener 040556 model, which is a robotic lawnmower. Apparently it is remote control.
Oh, they can't say it, told you.
But I'm going to doubt its performance is purely just on the look, because it kind of looks, there's zero place for where the grass is going to go. So my guess is that it doesn't collect the grass and it spits it straight back out. So yes, it's going to be easier to use a remote control, but then you would then have to eventually go and get something that's going to rake it all up and bag it all up. So yes, remote control is it easier? Sure. But you're just stretching the job out for a bit longer. And this is your review on Amazon X30K. If you wish, you can get it on Prime and you can get it by Thursday, August 27th if you order today.
Make sure you order on Paul Ray's credit card.
Absolutely. But no, I mean, like I say, you can get one for £540. Oh, I don't know if I trust that one. £35.99. You know what it is? They just look like robots from Robot Wars. I swear. That's all they look like. They do not look like anything that's going to actually do anything.
I mean,
Like
I
Robot
do
Wars.
fancy one of them little robots you put down, like on Fifth Element, and just goes around the perimeter like hoovering.
Yeah, well, this is it. They have been proven to look quite niffy, but I don't know. I quite like hoovering. I don't know. I'm not a big gardener. I could definitely pass up on doing lawn mowing, but I'll be honest with you, I also live in a bungalow, so I should make that quite clear that it is a fairly easy enough job for me to do a hoover. Oh, bless, he's not winning any awards for that crying, like, sorry.
I think the youngest of the brothers, one with the red hat, is by far the best kid actor at the bunch, by a mile.
Oh, totally. Oh, absolutely killing it. I agree. I think what works well with it, though, is, in my opinion, is that they're all bringing something very different to the table. So you've got the younger brother, Little Russ, who's doing really, really well. But I think it's also because that goes well with his character. Whereas, obviously, you've got the two older teenagers, which they're not really doing or saying an awful lot. But they're kind of masking that with the awkward teenager character. Were you just laughing at the cat sped up there?
No, the bit where he just jumps onto the table.
Oh, it just happened now. He's just fallen into the Cheerios.
Again, though, like a massive set, that, like a water pool full of it.
Yeah.
I mean, this
I
is
don't know, I think it's a difficult position, but why would you go under the milk? Why not at least stay invisible in case he does scoop you up? Poor decision making, Mason. Just saying.
It's just a movie, just saying.
Just a minute. But imagine that though, I'm going to go down. Imagine if you ate his son though. And you're like crunching, thinking, what on earth is that? Crunch, crunch. That's not a Cheerio. And then find out it's his son. I mean, that's dark, mind.
Doug saves the day, though.
Yeah.
It's one of the most iconic shots of the movie, that, though. Holding the microphone.
Magnifying glass. There's clever camera angles there as well, because clearly they're doing that on Moranis' mouth to make him look more comedic. Just little detail like that, I think they've gone really well into the thought process.
Oh, here we go, charades. That hasn't aged well, that overlay.
What?
What? The bit where they're trying to explain on baseball, the baseball.
I don't know, that looks alright. What do you mean? It hasn't aged well?
Oh, shut up, man.
Well, obviously Disney Plus are given the extra mile appreciation because I think that looks fine. No more different than the rest of the movie, really. Listen, DVD, mate, it's a thing of the past. Move with the time. Although the picture could be sharper, I don't know if it would be on Blu-ray. It's not a bad looking film. I think for like a streaming service, you know.
Camel cigarettes, man. Get in.
Being the position you're in, I reckon there could be a good kind of video to be made there about literally doing a comparison on VHS to Blu-ray something like that, because I do feel like this is one of the big things that we're so spoiled now that we don't realise that. Like, I'm sitting there saying, "Oh, this is looking a bit grainy compared to what I thought it would be," but I reckon if I put the VHS on, it's going to be like a world of difference.
I think one of the biggest things people forget about VHS, the fucking sound quality was so loud on a VHS. Like, you can have a DVD on, and like on the same telly, you quickly just put on the VHS. You'd be like, "Fucking hell, turn that down."
Yeah.
I love that there as well.
Whenever,
The fact that his hat's
What?
just a little bit too big for him. He hasn't come back to the correct proportion.
yeah, because he's not quite sure, is he? He's kind of putting it on, like trying to figure out. Like,
That's it. Those film doesn't really have much of a climax, though, does it? I mean, it's like, right, they get saved, and then it's kind of...
yeah, I mean, there's no big finale. It's a journey, isn't it?
Imagine that they all got zapped and came back as like one body.
Oh. Honey, I fucked up the kids. Holding hands.
Well, we were going to do Flash Gordon. There's another 80s little gem, but we opted for this for
Yeah.
something different.
I listened to the soundtrack the other day. It's superb.
What, Flash Gordon? I've got it on vinyl.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard it a million times before, but obviously it's part of the box set. And I just thought I'll have to stick that on my laptop just while I've got background music. And it just still works so well.
That's great how at the end... Oh, look at the size of that fucking turkey.
Yeah.
But again, that's a good story to tell, though. It's like the neighbours who started out, they all hated each other, and then by the end of it, they're all like one big happy family.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to assume that, like, obviously they're good friends now, and, you know, everyone's just getting along and stuff like that. So the moral of the story is, you know, just spend a little time with each other.
Was that kid...
Although that's very irresponsible to grow that turkey that big.
Is that kid
No
from...
one did all that.
Is that little kid from fucking Home Alone?
No. What part of that? Are you thinking the cousin?
One of the cousins, aye.
You know what it is? It might just be, because I'm thinking of it and I'm pretty sure.
It's just when it's just panned back to him at the end.
Yeah. Hold on a minute, what you
This has got a very similar score to Batteries Not Included.
Yeah. Well, it's, like you say, kind of that's another one where it kind of just works in its own right. Let's have a look. No, he's got a very short movie like this, little kiddie. So he did ABC After School Special, which is 87. He played a character called Mike Carlson in the Friday the 13th the series. American Playhouse, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Let's Get Mom, Monsters, Edward Scissorhands, The Flockins, back to doing ABC Weekend Special, and then Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, and then he did the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. That's his entire run.
Well, he's
So clearly not the actor.
He's quit acting and then put his money and went on to university, hasn't he, really? So...
Because he's probably a lawyer now or something like that. That's how it all works out.
A lawyer to the stars. Well, this has been a new one to do a Disney film. Well, we have done Black Date's Ghost before. Paul Ray is set to rejoin us eventually. Paul Ray's been away. We're doing Blade 2 and possibly Flash Gordon and Burbs, so yeah.
What a world. What a world.
We need Paul Ray for Waterworld.
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that when you mentioned all them, Paul Ray would be involved in it.
I think the problem with what...
yeah.
It's either going to have to happen or we're just basically going to have to bite the bullet and do it as a two-parter and I'll just make it one. Well, that's it, because I think every time we put off Waterworld, it's going right. It's a 3.5 hour bloody movie, and that's a long podcast to sit through.
Yeah.
I mean, did we not have a
We
break?
just need a. When we did what? When we did Robin Hood, we had a little break there.
Yeah. But no, it's
like a 5-10 minute break, toilet break.
I probably didn't even cut that out the edit when I think about it. I probably just snipped and chipped it.
I mean, could we do it as a two-parter? So, like, do it as like we'll do half the film one night and then half the film another night.
We could do, but again,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I get that for you as you're the master behind the edit and everything like that. So it all comes down to like the extra work that you need to do, which I'd imagine be a pain in the ass with the two-parter. But
oh, I mean, it's not that. It's just more just the time with me and Paul at work. You know what I mean? So.
Well, like I say, if we get it in advance, maybe it'll be easier. Obviously, if you get a rotor out and then maybe just say, right, even if we're like preparing for like 2 weeks in advance, just say, right, this is the date that we're going to do it. And then you guys know you're off work. I'm finished for, well, I'm in my house till like 6:30 on the very latest of my general work days. So I'm either going to be home or it's going to be 6:30. So, you know what I mean? It's not going to be hard.
Well, we will plan.
Like I say, after. Yeah.
But me and Carl will be back for Blade 2. The birthday, they're on our cards. The Burbs, Flash Gordon, they're the ones coming soon. Waterworld will be on the pipeline. But for now, thanks for listening. Goodbye for now.